For the year 2020, which camera's better? The GH5 or the Nikon Z6? Let's check it out. What's up guys, Myung here from Project Studios, and I just want to do a little comparison video with my Nikon Z6 and my Panasonic GH5. I use these two cameras a lot for a lot of my gigs. I shoot weddings, events, real estate, concerts, anything and everything that I could make money with. So these two cameras have been my workhorse, but I wanted to do a comparison to let you know which camera you might want and help you decide. All right, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is the rear screen. So the Panasonic GH5 has an ability to pop out and face forward. So if you're doing a vlog or you're recording yourself for anything, you can actually see yourself on the monitor. So that's one cool thing about it. But the downfall is that it's kind of small. So if you are shooting in manual mode and you are manually focusing, it's not big enough to show you if your subject is in focus. Half the times it looks like the person is in focus on the screen, but when I look at the actual video, they're slightly out of focus and you can't really see that difference. So because of that, I always use an external monitor, so I make sure that it's always in focus. Otherwise, if I don't have the big monitor, I could trust the autofocus to do its job, but sometimes I like having that full control of what's going to be in focus and what's not going to be in focus. The Nikon Z6 rear view monitor cannot swivel facing forward. It could tilt down or tilt up. And I think, no, you can't even bring it all the way down to face forward on the bottom. So that's a little bit of a flaw compared to a GH5, but the screen is a lot bigger and a lot clearer, and it's big enough for me to see my subject if they are in focus or not. So that alone is very useful. But I do still use external monitors, so you always want to be sure, right? Another cool thing about these two cameras is that I love their menu system. Both of them, it's tied. Their menus are very clean and clear and user-friendly. You know exactly where to go to find what you're looking for. And you get to create your own custom menu if there are some settings that you're always changing. So that's kind of cool for both of these cameras compared to some other cameras that I've seen that is kind of confusing. I don't really like the way the Canon menu looks or the Sony menu. So but that's just a preference, just an opinion. So that's totally up to you. So the big difference between these two cameras is obviously the size, where they're both mirrorless, but because of the fact that the GH5 is a micro four third, their camera is a lot smaller and their lens is a lot smaller. It has their pros and cons, obviously, because it is smaller. My favorite lens being the 70-200, their version is very small. Look how tiny that thing is. It's very light. It's made out of plastic or good quality plastic, and it still brings in the same amount of light, aperture f2.8, that you need when you're shooting in a reception area, inside a hotel room. And you don't want to bump up your ISO too much, right? So you want that natural light to come in, and that f2.8 does amazing. So that's the benefit of the GH5. You get smaller lenses, more portable. I mean, check this out. If you were to use this big lens with a Z6, it's just a monster. It's super heavy, and if you're trying to focus, you have a hard time doing it with two hands. It's best to be on a tripod, but for hand holding it, 70-200 on the Z6 is not the way to go. And I love this lens. The 70-200 is probably my favorite lens because it creates the best bokeh, the best depth of field. And plus you get to zoom in all the way to your bride and the groom without having to get close to them. And you need that when you're shooting weddings and a lot of events. So GH5 is a winner for the size and weight. Another feature that I love about the GH5 is that it's got 2 card slots. So if you need your videos to be backed up because you want that assurance of not losing your footages, then the GH5 is the way to go, right? It has two SD card slots. You can make it where the second slot copies exactly what your first slot memory card is recording, or you can make it where it overflows. If your first slot is done recording in the memory card, then it'll automatically go to the second one. So that's kind of a cool feature that the GH5 has. The Z6 only has one card slot, but it's an XQD card slot. It's a newer technology. The memory card is a lot tougher. You can't really easily break it with your hands. It's supposed to be more stable, but the GH5, ever since I had it, it's never messed up on any of the recording. My SD card has never failed me in any camera, but maybe that's because I've been lucky for the past 15 years that I've been shooting. Of course, there is that chance, right? It's meant to break one of these days, so it's better to be safe than sorry. But with the new technology of the XQD card, I think you'll be safe just having that one slot, but we'll find out as we're using it more often. It's too new to kind of know right now, but yeah, we'll see in the future just how reliable that thing is, right? So the reason why I love these two cameras out of every camera out there is because of the image stabilizer. The GH5, according to many opinions out there, has the best image stabilizer. And it's got almost 3 different modes, right? The first mode is obviously the lens has a OIS, optical image stabilizer. And then you could turn on the E-stabilizer, electronic stabilizer inside the camera, and it works together with your lens so your shot is super stable handheld. Before the GH5, there's no way I'm gonna handhold any of my cameras. I used to shoot with a Nikon DSLR and a handful of other cameras. Just wasn't that reliable, right? But now, with this new technology, the image stabilizer on the GH5 is awesome. It also has a mode where you can switch to this tripod stabilization mode, where if you just hold still, the stabilizing just freezes in place as if you're on a tripod. So that to me is amazing. You could just carry that camera around, handhold it, and get some quality, steady shot. The Nikon Z6 also has an amazing stabilization, but the small downfall is that every once in a while, it'll create this little weird warp on the image. So it's unusable, but it's rare, but you still do get it way more often than the GH5. I'm sure with another firmware update, they could fix that kind of problem, but as of now, the GH5 wins for the image stabilizer. So these two cameras are dope because you get to shoot in log. If you're not shooting video in log, I highly recommend that you do so. The colors come out amazing. It's easy to edit. It gives you more dynamic range. The videos from the log looks more closer to the red camera, the ARRI camera, compared to if you were to just shoot it in a regular picture profile. It just then looks like just any other cameras, right? But the log gives you that flexibility to make your videos better. With the GH5, you could also record 10-bit 422 internally. You could just get this tiny little camera, excuse the cage and the monitor, really smaller than what you're seeing right here. And it records 10-bit 422, and you get so many video options with this camera. It shoots amazing photos, but it's really made for video. It's got more options for videos and some options for photos. So it's amazing. Now with the Nikon Z6, you need to buy the Atomos Ninja V to get your log video. I think other external recorders do it too, but I'm not sure which recorders do it. But I know that all of Atomos recorders have the ability to unlock the log picture profile from your Z6. And I love the way the skin looks. I love the way the video quality is. And you get an amazing dynamic range too. So that's the cool thing about the Z6. Plus, unlike the GH5 video quality in an MOV mode is 100 megabits per second. So it kind of adds up. If you're shooting like 10-minute video nonstop, that's gigabytes of video. Whereas this one, it's almost half the size of the GH5, if not less. And you still get the quality that the GH5 has. So for video format, I kind of like the Nikon Z6 a little bit more because of the fact that you can save a little space if you're shooting a long video, like a concert, for example, right? So the Nikon wins in the quality, but loses because of the fact that you have to spend an extra $1,000 on this Atomos Ninja V to get that log unlocked. But quick note, with the GH5, you still have to spend $100 to get the code to unlock the log. So, but luckily the camera's only $1,300. And I'll put a link below. With that $1,300 also comes with a free extra battery, 2 memory cards, 64GB fast speed memory cards, bag, accessories. So the fact that it's a lot cheaper too makes the GH5 gives it another point. So the great thing about the Panasonic GH5 is that you could record forever or until your battery runs out or your memory card runs out. The battery running out isn't a problem because you could get a dummy battery and plug it to the wall like I did on a recent shoot that lasted a couple of hours. So that's cool. The Z6, you can shoot for up to 30 minutes and then you have to, it'll turn off and then you have to record again. It doesn't bother me too much. Obviously, I could just, if I see a little break during the shoot, I could easily just turn off the recording and instantly turn it back on. But I think that they do that so that it doesn't overheat the whole camera. It is a full sensor, so it probably takes a lot more processing power to run the camera. So I think that's their safe way of just make sure it cools off, has the time to shut off and turn it back on. But I think that it has an ability to keep running if you record with the Atomos Ninja V. Now, actually, I haven't tested that out yet, but I'll give that a shot later to see. I think you can, so we'll just keep it at that. Both of these cameras have an amazing autofocus. The GH5 has one of the best autofocus ever since their latest update. And I need that when I capture brides walking down or the bridal party walking down the aisle. I focus on their face, it locks onto their face, and then it continually focuses on their face as they're walking closer to the camera. That's very important. And by chance, if it's not catching the focus, you could just push the autofocus halfway and it'll start hunting harder to capture the subject. And if it's not catching their face for any reason at all, then you could just tap on the screen and then it'll track whatever you tapped on the screen. Same thing with the Nikon Z6. It has an amazing autofocus system ever since the latest firmware also, 3.0. And the great thing about that is it focuses on their face if they're too far, and then it finds their eye once they get close. And if there's multiple people walking down, like the father and the bride walking down, and it's capturing the father's face, and all of a sudden you want the bride to be in focus more, then you could easily push the joystick and it'll change from one face to another. GH5 doesn't have that ability. You can't change whatever face that it randomly finds, but luckily you can easily just tap that face if you want that to be in focus, right? And with the Z6, if it's not catching the face by chance, then you could easily push the OK button. The reticle will turn, I think it's called reticle, right? It'll turn into a square, and then you aim it at the face and then push OK again, and it'll start tracking whatever you selected, the face. But if let's say there's a little boy holding a box of ring, right? And you want that to be in focus instead of his face. A good way to just push OK, aim it at the box, push OK again, and then it'll start tracking the box. Or like the GH5, you could just tap on it on the screen and it'll track whatever you tap. So their focus system is amazing. I love it. Very reliable. So they both win in that subject. So the obvious big difference between these two cameras is the sensor size, right? The GH5 is a micro four thirds sensor, and the Z6 is a full frame sensor. So micro four thirds sensor's benefit is the fact that it allows the camera to run forever without overheating because it's a lot smaller. The lenses are a lot smaller. As you can see, my favorite 70-200 lens. Because the image sensor is small, I usually use a speed booster and use my Nikon lens if I need to get that extra bokeh or extra depth of field. You get more options to use a bunch of other lenses as well. With a Nikon Z6, it also has an ability to use a bunch of other lenses too. So I know that for the Z series, there's a handful of lenses that's out right now, but they're all super expensive. Because of that, and because I'm kind of cheap too, I still use a lot of my old Nikon lenses with the FTZ adapter with my Z6, and it works flawlessly. It's perfect. And plus, there's a lot of cheap Nikon lenses that you can get, like the 50mm as well too. And there's companies out there that's making the FTZ adapters that allows you to use Canon lenses, Nikon lenses. I even bought a little adapter that allows you to use Micro Four Thirds lenses. Now that's doesn't work that great, and the sensor isn't connected, so the autofocus doesn't work. But it's fun, and the fact that it has that option is really cool. So guys, I know I was supposed to pick a winner at the end of the video, but to be honest with you, they are both winners. If you are in a business where you have to do both photos and video, then I highly recommend the Nikon Z6. Obviously, Nikon's photo ability is one of the best. The fact that it's a full sensor, the fact that you get amazing depth of field and bokeh, creamy background, and it's one of the best photo camera out there, right? And the fact that Nikon finally came up with a camera that makes their video amazing. Before the Z6, I was using a Nikon D750 for video, and man, it just wasn't good. So I used it for a little bit, but look, right after I got the GH5, I never went back to D750 for video. So if you are in a market to do both photo and video, then the Z6 is the way to go. But if you know that you're gonna just focus on just video, then I highly recommend the GH5. So if I was to pick a camera this year in 2020 to shoot videos, out of every camera that's out there that's in the $2,000 or less range, I'd still go with the GH5. The video quality is amazing. You get the log internally. You get to shoot 10-bit 422. Colors look great. You get so much video options, unlike the Nikon Z6. The Nikon Z6 is new with the video, so there's few features that you don't get, like when you're using an external monitor. For some reason, all the display that's in the back of the monitor doesn't appear on your external monitor. So it's just a clean slate, it's just a clean video. So that kind of sucks when you're recording, right? Because you always want to see that red button blinking to make sure you're recording. So when I'm recording, I have to look at the bottom, and then I could then go back to the top of the monitor to, use my camera. So I'm pretty sure with a firmware update, they're gonna fix that. But with the Nikon, with a Panasonic GH5, everything works perfectly. You get to shoot in anamorphic mode. It's got a D-squeeze. External monitors work well. You could use this Ninja V with the Panasonic GH5 together, and then you get the even better 10-bit ProRes HQ quality with the camera. So this camera to me is still the winner for video in 2020. So if that's your business, this is the way to go. All right, guys, so that just concludes my video. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.